I'm afraid of heights.
Okay.
Stefan's idea, our friend's idea, was that we'd hike down in the morning, get on our bike, and go over the Alps into Austria on the bike. And rounded a corner on this hike, and there was a sheer drop of about 200 feet.
Oh my god.
And a ledge of about maybe 3 feet.
Oh my.
And a wire that we had to hold on to.
Uh-huh.
And I looked back at Stefan and I said, "You realize that I am afraid of heights, right?"
Did he know?
Nope.
How's it going, Dan?
Good, how you doing, man?
Good. So, are we doing kind of what we usually do for the haircut?
Yeah. This shorter on the sides and the back, and then the top trimmed down to, I guess, like about 2 fingers or an inch or so. Or whatever it is we normally
usually
do.
somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And then on the sides, we were doing more of a skin fade.
Yeah.
Past times. Do you want to keep that?
Yeah, same thing.
Like a low bald fade somewhere in there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that would...
So Dan, you've been coming in for a little while now.
Yep.
I don't know how long specifically. Probably at least a year, right?
At least a year, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've always enjoyed kind of our conversations, and you've been a lot of places, doing a lot of things.
Right. Yeah. But the trips that I normally talk about are more athletic in nature, because I like, when I go on vacation, now that the kids are grown and not coming with me and my wife, we usually have vacations that are more athletic, whether it be hiking or biking or some type of running event.
Yeah.
But
no, that's so cool.
I started running like 25 years ago.
Okay. What kind of got you started?
Well, at 27, my father passed away of diabetes. He was 59 years old.
Wow.
So he died of complications of diabetes, mostly because he had a sedentary lifestyle and was not, didn't really take care of himself as he could have. And at about 2 or 3 years after his death, I was, doing the same types of things, not being sedentary, not really doing much. So I started working at Rodale Press, which at the time had Runner's World and all those magazines, Prevention Magazine and all that sort of thing. And I started losing weight, and I thought I'd do a 5K. Because they had their own individual 5K, because they're a very progressive company at the time.
Yeah.
And I started running 5Ks and just thought I'd progress to a 10K. And it kind of snowballed after that.
Yeah.
That, the 10K turned into, I'll run a half marathon, and that's it. And then, okay, I'll run 1 marathon, and then I'm done, I think, from running. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll do a 50K.
Wow.
And then that's it. And then it turned into a 50-miler, and then a 100-miler.
Man.
But long story short, what I started doing is just became, because my body type doesn't lend itself to running, it became a challenge to, sustain my new lifestyle at that time. And it kind of turned into, what's the next challenge? And when the 5Ks and 10Ks weren't enough, like I said, I kind of went to the half marathon, did that for a while, then went to that 1 marathon. Then when somebody said, well, you did pretty good at that marathon, why not run and train for, and see if you can qualify for Boston?
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty strenuous and difficult endeavor. So I did that, and then after about 6 or 7 years of running, I got into road running. I got into ultra running, which is more the trails and the 50Ks and 50 milers, 100 milers. Did that for 12 years, and then I started, after a while, it was like 15 years into it, I became really aware that I was getting older, and my knees weren't really holding up, so I kind of retired from those super long runs and switched to the bicycle, and then shorter runs, because I saw a lot of my friends, I'm 54, and a lot of the friends I started with were getting into their 50s and 60s and they stopped running.
Yeah.
So what I started doing was biking to save the knees, And then, like I said, maybe only 20 miles a week or 25 miles a week of running if I could. And mixing in lifting, because one of the things that I notice with people my age, and like I said, I'm 54, is that they start to get in those middle 50s and the running stops, and you stop seeing at group runs and stuff like that. And so what I wanted to do is just to sustain that lifestyle as long as I could. And you do that really by constantly coming up with new goals and backing off of things that were nice goals when you were 30 or 40, but aren't really conducive to joint health if you're 50 or 54 or 55.
Yeah.
So like I said, those 20-mile run days stopped, and it turned into maybe a 5-mile run, and then go ride a bike a little bit or something like that. But and the good thing to do if you want to sustain something like that is I constantly mix in different sports. So if you're, and when I say sport, I mean lifting weights or just hiking or just you have to have those days mixed in there, otherwise you're gonna burn out quick. And I've seen a lot of people over the years that, in the last 25 years, that get into running or ultra running, and they are like, they're there for 4 or 5 years and do all these great things, and then all of a sudden they disappear. You never see them again. So the trick I've learned is that to maintain that lifestyle, you really have to mix things up. And then realize when maybe you're done with something, and then go to something else. And I think sometimes that comes naturally. Like with ultra running, I did 20 or 30, 50 Ks, about 10, 50-mile runs, and one 100-mile run. But I knew at about 2016 that I was done. I was done with that challenge, not only because physically maybe it was starting to get really taxing, but mentally I just wasn't there anymore. And so moved on to biking about that time. I still run. I ran 11 miles this morning.
Nice.
But it's
evolved and changed.
It's evolved from where I was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 14 years ago. But you need to evolve, and if you don't evolve and stay fresh with something like physical activity in general, I don't mean running. I don't care if it's biking, running, hiking, walking, lifting weights, any of those things. To constantly evolve and find new challenges. That's how you stay fit for the long term. And like I said, the impetus for that whole thing was just my, not only my father, but just a family history of, men dying early because they were not healthy or because they were overworked. Or
Kind of the interesting thing too is that you're around the age that your father was when
That's correct.
And how you're in such a different place.
I have the advantage of not having diabetes, which of course is a big advantage, but
for sure
he didn't have he was a tobacco user, which is worse, especially if you're diabetic. And so I have that advantage. I don't use tobacco. I don't drink. He didn't drink either, but
you've made conscious life choices.
Correct. And I have 2 brothers, 162 and 161. My oldest brother had three-way bypass at age 50.
Wow.
And my other brother had a stroke at 59.
Wow.
So, there's not a lot of good family history, so I'm doing the best I can to stay away from those health issues.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, I even know my grandpa, he had a heart attack, I think, at 80 or something like that. And he was all confused why, like, he's telling the doctors, well, I did everything right. Like, well, your dad passed away in his 50s, so it's like you can only push it down the road, but the fact that you have the ability to be intentional and not just for a longer life, but I'm sure even a more fulfilling life and more just stronger life,
there's a saying in running, although I'm probably going to mess it up, but I don't run to add years to my life, but life to my years.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's one of those common sayings that they like to say. But it certainly does add years to your life. At least I think it does.
For sure. I'm sure it does.
And along with that goes the diet as well. I mean, my diet, although not the best diet in the world, is a lot better than what my dad's diet was. Mm-hmm. So I got that going for me too.
Yeah. So you've been cycling more recently?
Yeah, the last 6-7 years I've gotten more into cycling. Of course, my personality, the way it is, I push the boundaries. At first, anyway, I did a lot of 100-mile bike rides. Yeah. To see how fast I could be and stuff like that. But biking to me was a little different. It wasn't really a competition like the running was. It's more of just enjoying myself, and that led me to a lot of, like I was talking about in the beginning, is the vacations where we were biking through different countries. So that's something we've been doing since 2018. And what we'll do is we'll go to a country we've been in Europe most of these last 5 years. So we go to different European countries now. I don't know if that will change in the future, but I'm sure it will. Yeah. But the first trip, I'm friends with a guy from Bavaria.
Oh, cool.
And he lives here, and he has his own business where he is a race director for races.
Oh, cool.
And I got to be friends with him, and he was going to Bavaria in 2018 and was going to ride 700 miles through Bavaria into Austria, over the Alps, and into Venice, Italy. So
wow.
That was our first biking trip, and that was in 2018.
What a way to start it out.
Yeah, and I really had to, that was a rough one.
Did you feel at all prepared, or did you just think you were?
It's funny thing is I physically, I was as prepared as I could be physically, but we were new to it, and one of the things we found out really quickly is Stefan did it just on his own because he's from the area. He thought, I can just organize this on our own, but he didn't build any rest days in between, so we biked for 11 days straight.
Oh, wow.
I think it was 11, could have been 12. And it got, there were some very difficult days. There were some fun days, and it was beautiful, and the scenery was majestic, especially going through the Alps and in both Bavaria and Austria. But there were days when I thought to myself, I could have used a rest day here.
Yeah, I believe that.
Especially after going through the Alps. That was a rough day, and then the next day, 7-8 o'clock in the morning, you're on your bike again, and you're just on 50 miles over with 5,000 or 6,000 feet of climb. Yeah. And then the next day, you're right there again. And we didn't have, our bikes were very, when you go on these trips, you rent bikes over there. You can take your own bike, I imagine, but we had all of our equipment, all of our clothes on the back of the bike.
So that just adds that extra weight.
Yep, yeah, and these bikes are kind of heavy-duty bikes, but that was our first trip, and it was great. It was a lot of fun at times, but also very challenging. So the next time I organized a trip, and I actually hired a company. I went to Ireland the next time. This was right after COVID kind of cleared up for 2 weeks in 2021.
Oh, wow.
I went to Western Ireland, but I organized that, and I just hired somebody over there. So a lot of these countries that you go to, there are big biking communities, and you can hire either large companies do it, or they're in multiple countries, or you can find somebody in that particular little country that maybe does it on the side, and that's what I did in Ireland, and I was really happy with that. He was just a farmer. He was into biking, and
wow.
But he also had a van, and for a side gig, he would take people around Ireland, and he would have what's called a sag wagon, which is nothing more than a van that if you break down, he comes and he fixes your tire, that kind of stuff. So it takes a lot of the pressure off. But we didn't have that in Germany. If we broke down in Germany or Austria, we were on our own.
Man. Did anyone have any big?
Yeah, there was somebody, and when we were in Germany, couple people broke down.
Oh man.
The one girl actually crashed and had to go to the hospital.
Oh man.
But one thing that I learned quickly in Germany and a lot of these countries you go to is everybody speaks English super well.
That's nice.
So if you don't know German, which I didn't, but we had 2 German speakers with us, so
Yeah.
we were cool. But yeah, so we did encounter issues that we had to kind of, those were stressful situations because even though we had 2 native, people from Bavaria, it was real stressful, and the girl got hurt. It wasn't serious, but it was serious enough that it affected her the rest of the trip. I mean, she got some bad bruising.
Yeah.
But when somebody breaks down, we had to find, had to call you can actually call a taxi over there, and they come get you with a taxi that actually is run for a bike. But then you have to go and, it's just stressful.
Yeah. Yeah.
What we did in Ireland is that when we hired this guy, is he did all that for you.
That's really nice.
I took my oldest son, and he got a flat tire like once a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, So if you ever do something like that, the way to go is to hire somebody to follow you around, and they will handle all the hotel accommodations and
that's great.
And dinners, and tell you where to what the best things to go see are, what the best bars to go see are. So it's kind of like a little concierge, if you will.
Yeah. And then you probably more experience some of the country that you wouldn't ever know about too.
And that's one of the first things I learned when I was going through, Germany, Austria, and Italy, is that we're going on these small bike trails, which are great, and you're going through these little towns, and I looked at my wife went with us, and I was like, I would never see this if I hadn't been on a bike. If I was driving through, I'm sure it's beautiful when you drive through too, but it's a different experience.
Slower pace, I'm sure.
Yep, a lot slower pace. You're seeing a lot more. And in the case of when I went to Ireland or I went to Croatia last year, you're seeing people are pointing things out, because you have a guide, de facto guide that's, taking your stuff. Your bike doesn't have all that extra gear on it. You don't have to worry about if you're going to make it to the hotel, because if it starts raining or you crash or you get a flat tire, they're right there. You're enjoying yourself, but you're not.
You're not worried.
You're not. It's not as stressful.
Yeah.
Not that. I mean, there's people that go out and do that camping and on their, they're going to go through Europe on a bike and they're just going to go through. But that's at 54. I'm not digging that.
Yeah.
I'm done with it.
Yeah. You've done that adventures.
Yeah. But so we do that. I said we were going to do that once every other year, but it's turned into once a year.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know how sustainable that's going to be.
What's next on the list?
This in October we're going to Prague in the Czech Republic, although I think they call it Czechia now.
Okay.
And we're going to ride our bikes from Prague to the Vienna area. So cool. I say Prague to Vienna. So Prague into Austria.
What's one of the sketchiest things you ran into on any of your trips?
Sketchiest? I don't have anything that I would say sketchy as in danger. Well, okay, I do have something, but it didn't involve when I'm afraid of heights.
Okay.
So when we got into Füssen, which is the last large German town before you get into Austria, we took a gondola ride up to the top of the Alps, and we stayed one night at a hunting cabin, very rustic hunting cabin.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. And Stefan's idea, our friend's idea, was that we'd hike down in the morning, get on our bike, and go over the Alps into Austria on the bike. And on the way down, a 3-mile hike took us probably the better part of an hour and a half, 2 hours, because there were some treacherous spots where, and you got to realize we had all of our equipment on our backs again, all of our clothes for the week, or 2 weeks rather, and rounded a corner on this hike, and there was a sheer drop of about 200 feet.
Oh my goodness.
And a ledge of about 4 feet, maybe 3 feet, and a wire that we had to hold on to. And I looked back at Stefan and I said, "You realize that I am afraid of heights, right?"
Did he know?
Nope. And then so I held on that one section, scared for my life. And I always say that, it's not that I'm scared of heights for myself. I'm scared of heights for other people.
Yeah.
Because one of my biggest fears is to see somebody else falling. I guess I'd be afraid if I was falling too.
Yeah, yeah.
So I said, "Please let me go first," and I got to go first, and I just went, and I didn't look back at anybody else. I just started going down, and then there were another couple switchbacks below that weren't as treacherous, but still steep. And wouldn't you know, one of the guys he had sandals on like I have. And I said, shouldn't you change into something a little bit more robust?
Yeah.
And he tripped.
Oh no.
And he started falling. It was, like I said, it wasn't a sheer cliff, but he started falling towards us.
Oh my goodness.
But caught himself on a tree because we were below him. But yeah, that was the sketchiest thing on that trip. That was scary as heck.
Oh man.
But I could talk about that trip all day long. I mean, because, and some good things, some bad things. We rolled into a small town about the size of, maybe a few hundred people, on, the size of Lenhartsville, I'd say. And it was 11 o'clock, and our friend, who was very much he was a Bavarian guy, very much into drinking beer. Pulled into this beer garden in this little town. It was like 11 o'clock in the morning. And there was 18 of us. And he went up to the guy and said, "You open?" He goes, "No, we don't open until noon." And he goes, "Hey, we got 18 Americans here." He goes, "We're open." He opened up real quick.
That's funny.
But the bicyclists drink a beer over there called a Radler.
Okay.
And a Radler is like half a glass of Pilsner and half a glass of Sprite or any kind of lemon lime soda. It's super refreshing, and you could drink 3 or 4 of them, and it doesn't really affect you.
Wow.
So if you're really thirsty,
you could be in trouble.
You drink some Radlers. And a Radler in German, it means bicyclist. So that's it's a lot like a summer shandy.
Nice.
But a lot better.
Yeah.
But as far as shady things go, that trip down, that hike down the Alps, I never expected it to be that steep. I thought it was just going to be this nice gradual downhill, maybe a couple steep spots. I didn't expect sheer cliffs. Yeah,
for sure. You told me one time this story about some guy, he ended up in a different country.
Yeah, that was, everybody has a nickname. That was a guy we referred to as Swampy.
Oh, wow.
And Swampy, we were, that was the day after we had climbed over the Alps from Bavaria into Austria. A really tough day. Same day that I came down off the Alps in that hike. And he wanted to go, our plan was to go 40 miles, and then there was another mountain we had to climb, which we all refused to do. He said he's going to do it. So him and this German girl that was with us named Frauke and Swampy took off early, and they were going to bike it was about 50 miles.
Oh, wow.
And including going up the mountain to Italy at the time, so we're going to be in Italy. We got to the end, long story short, and Swampy and Frauke are there, and I said, "Hey, Swamp, how'd it go?" He goes, "We got lost." I said, "Well, what do you mean you got lost?" He goes, "We ended up in Switzerland."
Oh my goodness.
How the hell did you end up in Switzerland? They go, "I took a wrong turn." And this guy's famous for getting lost. I was like, "That's Swampy."
Oh man.
But the thing is about the EU is you can pass freely across borders within countries in the EU. It's like going across a state line. So Germany into Austria, there's just a sign there saying "Welcome to Austria."
Yeah.
Austria into Italy, it's just "Welcome to Italy." Of course in Italian or German.
Yep.
But some of the countries in the EU are only financially intertwined with other countries. There's not free borders. Switzerland is one of the countries that does not have a free border. You can't just pass through it.
Oh, wow.
So they had trouble. They took a wrong turn, went on some dirt trail into Switzerland, which was right by where we were going, because Switzerland, Austria, and Italy and Germany all kind of are really close at that one spot. And he ended up in Switzerland. Oh my goodness. The thing is, when they came back, they went through there's a border checkpoint, and they had to explain what they did.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's Swampy.
So we're pretty much wrapping up the haircut here. What's kind of your advice, if you wanted to give a piece of advice to someone who is either starting to get into or wanting to get started with a fitness journey, or wanting to start to think about their health in a different way? How would you encourage them to start? And how would you encourage someone who is at a place where they are kind of getting older in their years and thinking about adjusting how they are dealing with their health.
Well, somebody who's going to start, the biggest thing is finding something you really enjoy. And it might not, I'm a runner, so I really enjoyed running, but find that, my wife loves skating. She hated running. I tried to get her into running because we had 4 kids, and she's like, I'm not running. I said, well, just try that, try biking, try running. She said, nope, so she found skating. So my point in that is just find something that moves you.
Yeah.
It might be hiking, it might be walking. If you hate running, don't start with running.
Yeah.
Find that thing that's athletic, even if it's working in the garden, or just, like I said, walking around the neighborhood, or whatever it is. Find that thing that moves you and is keeping you active, and then build on it. Maybe you start hiking and it leads to running, and then you start building on that, and just set little goals for yourself. It doesn't have to be, grandiose and say, I'm going to run a marathon. It just means, hey, I just want to stay active, or I just want to start getting active. So start with something you really love, and then build these mini goals into it, and see where it gets you. You may find that you're doing something you never expected. After you reach these little mini goals. So that's what I would do. Find something that you really love, and just start setting some small goals and build from there and see what happens. If you've been in it a long time and are starting to struggle, the best thing to do, when I say struggle, I mean struggle to keep going especially after you've reached a certain goal. Because I always said that there's something that after every large goal that I set for myself that I reached, I always say that there's something that happens. I called it runner's depression. Even if I was successful, it didn't matter if I was successful or not successful, I always went into a little bit of a depression where I didn't want to do anything. The key is trying to find something that is going to get you back up off the ground and get out there again. And like I said, it doesn't have to be running. So maybe switch it up after that. Like I did. Like I said, after a while, running wasn't doing it for me, so I switched to biking. I mixed lifting weights in there. Maybe do CrossFit, maybe, those kinds of things. I don't care. Pickleball, that's a big thing right now, especially guys in your 50s and 60s. Try pickleball, anything to get you moving and mix things up. If you've been doing things for a while and you're older, getting in your 50s and 60s, the best thing to do is just mix things up, whether, like I said, be tennis or skating or hiking, or, like I said, pickleball's a big thing now too, and anything. And that's going to keep you more interested, and the variation will keep you from being bored and not really getting out there and it becoming a job and you're starting to hate it. But that would be my best advice for people who have been going out there and just are getting bored but variation is the key. For those people.
Hey, thanks so much for being on here.
No problem.